There's a reason some advertisers consistently dominate with Google Ads whilst others just waste money. It's not luck, and it's not just higher ad spend either. It's because they know what it takes to win and they follow a proven formula. In this video, I'm going to show you what top 1% marketers do to scale fast, stay profitable, and crush the competition with Google Ads. Let's get into it. So the first point I want to make is around actually understanding what it takes to win and what that means. Because if you approach Google Ads, you start running ads on Google without the right expectations, without understanding what it takes, very good chance your Google Ads will not succeed. So one of the first things to understand, and this is quite shocking for a lot of people who aren't familiar with the space, is that most Google ad campaigns are not profitable. Now your natural reaction might be, okay, well if most Google ad campaigns aren't profitable, what's the point in running Google Ads? Surely that's just an exercise in wasting money. Why would I go about doing that? I can understand why you might think that, but here's why that logic is wrong and why for a lot of businesses, Google Ads is going to be a potentially really successful customer acquisition channel. So I'll give you an example to help demonstrate this, right? So let's say that you're running Google ad campaigns and 20 new campaigns in a row fail. You spend $1,000 on each, for example, and they all fail. You don't get any leads, any sales. I mean, that would be quite hard to do. You'd really have to produce quite poor Google ad campaigns to do that. But let's sort of go through the worst case scenario, right? Let's say you're in that scenario and you've lost $20,000, you haven't generated any business from it. But then let's say the next campaign you create generates a 4x return on ad spend. So nicely profitable for most businesses. And you're able to scale that campaign to the point where you spend $100,000 on it. So you spent $100,000 on that campaign, you generated $400,000. Now, maybe you had to have a bunch of failed campaigns initially, probably not as many as 20, probably don't need to spend anywhere near as much to go through that learning and testing process. But maybe you had to have those failed campaigns initially to work out things that don't work so that you could then find the thing that does work specifically for your products and services and for your business. You gain that experience, you gain that market understanding, you experimented with different ways of doing things, and then you get that campaign that can produce $400,000 in revenue in this instance. Well, that successful campaign not only pays for the failed campaigns, pays for that 20 times over. And that's the dynamic that's at play here. Whilst most campaigns fail, most of the money spent on Google Ads is profitable. Because there are tons of ad campaigns that don't really work out, not a huge amount is spent on them, advertisers stop running them, and then there are a minority that work really well, where the advertiser kept going, where they worked it out, where they got through the difficult hurdles, they overcame the obstacles in their way. And those campaigns were successful, so those Google advertisers kept running them and they scaled them and they spent far more on the successful campaigns than they did on the unsuccessful campaigns. So you can have a dynamic in your Google ad account where most of your campaigns fail, but you're still a very successful and profitable Google advertiser because you maximize your winners and allow the ones that don't work to stop spending and move on, right? If you understand that as a Google advertiser going into it, I think that's going to help you stick at it so much longer. And everything in business, Google Ads included, everything in marketing gets so much easier the longer you do it. If I didn't know anything about two different businesses, but one had been in business for 30 years and one had been in business for 6 months, and I was asked, you could have to run ads for one of those two businesses, which do you think you're going to have more success with? Absolutely, I'm going to choose the business that's been around for 30 years. Because they probably got a lot more brand presence, probably far more people to recognize them, they probably worked out products and services that people actually like and want to buy. There's a whole bunch of things that business is going to have that the new one isn't. If you're just starting a business, that might not sound like good news, but the lesson to take away from it is keep going. Not only with your Google Ads, with everything else, it can really help you over the long run. Okay, point number 2 is to embrace the AI improvements and the AI options, the AI campaigns that Google is creating. A lot of Google advertisers want to try and fight it. They want to try and maintain a lot of manual control. You are already going to be left behind. It's only going to get worse into the future. The best marketers that I know, whilst it's difficult because they've had success, they understand the platform, they know ways things are done, how to make things work, and then it changes and they have to adapt. So there's lots of Google advertisers that for the last 3 years or so have been really resistant to Performance Max campaigns. So like, I'm just going to run campaigns on search, maybe display as well. I'm going to keep control of it, or not Performance Max. But most advertisers see better results when they use Performance Max. A lot of advertisers are reluctant to use Demand Gen, another sort of AI-based targeting sorted ad campaign. Fairly recently, Google has released AI Max, which is an AI version of search campaigns where Google can not only work out which keywords to target, but also create your ads for you, like a very automated AI-based setup. And the results so far are fairly mixed in terms of can it produce good results or better results than if you set it up manually. Most Google advertisers at this point would say no, but we know that's going to change. This has only just been released in the last few months. It's going to be improved, and that's going to really help Google advertisers get better results. So a lot of Google advertisers will fight a new AI-based feature, and they might be right for 6 months. They might be better off doing it manually to produce better results. But eventually, as the thing improves, that no longer becomes true. So what I think is best is actually to test all the new stuff, see which works best for you, retest it fairly regularly. It will get to the point where it produces better results than doing it manually. And then take that time that you've saved and put it into other things. Put it into focusing on the areas where you can gain real competitive advantage. Okay, things that AI will make sort of ubiquitous across you and your competitors, so that you can then work on the stuff that really provides that differentiation. And marketing is all about differentiation, convincing people to buy your stuff as opposed to someone else's stuff. So what are those things then? Let's go into some of those things that I know the best Google advertisers are focusing on when it comes to, right, AI is going to do all this for everyone. No competitive advantage to be had there, but it's going to save me time. How can I gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace? Data. Data is one of the really big points here. If we're all using the same AI tools, and AI is going to optimize our campaigns from a delivery, targeting, even producing the ads themselves standpoint, how do we get AI to work better for us than for our competitors? Well, we feed it more data and we feed it better data. So you want to jump through the extra hoops that take a bit of time and effort, get server-side tracking set up, for example, not just rely on browser-based tracking. Make sure that Google understands not just that these leads have been generated, but integrate your CRM and go, these are high quality leads, these are lower quality leads. We would like you to optimize for higher value. These are existing customers, let's go out and acquire new customers. All sorts of things I create videos about, and I've got sort of more technical videos on, bidding strategies to maximize this sort of stuff and how you go about setting that up. But it sounds like a simple point, but it's really not. Like, I know many people that operate at a very high level within the marketing agency world, and data is like half their focus for a lot of them. They're like, we start working with a client and we get their data as good as we can possibly be. We get all the tracking, and it's not just accuracy of tracking, it's also then differentiating between leads generated, between customers generated, so that Google knows this person's actually worth a lot more to me than this. Please go ahead and optimize for that. Now, I've got a bunch of other things that I want to share with you when it comes to what the top 1% of Google advertisers are doing right now. But first, I want to let you know about our done for you Google Ads services. So we can create, manage, optimize your Google ad campaigns for you. We can take all this workload off your hands. We can just run it for you. We'll almost certainly help you get significantly better results. There is a link in the description if you want to go ahead and book in a free call with one of my team members to find out more about how we might be able to help. If that sounds interesting, go ahead and do that, and hopefully we get a chance to work together. Point number 4 is unit economics. So the best Google advertisers really understand their unit economics and they obsess over improving it. So let me sort of explain what I'm talking about here. You need to really understand what you can afford to pay to acquire a customer. Like, how much can you afford to pay to sell this product? How much can you afford to pay to sell this service? It may well be more than you assume it is, particularly factoring things like lifetime value. So really understanding your numbers all around that. It's not just ROAS, return on ad spend, although that's a big part of it. You have to factor in things like your profit margin. So if your gross profit margin is really poor, you're going to need a higher return on ad spend number in order for it to work, vice versa if it's the other way around. And I often speak to Google advertisers that are selling something. They're just selling something because that's their business and they're interested in it, or they work for a company and that's what they sell. And I'll ask them, one of the most important numbers for me to ever know to assess the likely scalability and success of a Google ad campaign is, what's your CAC limit? So what can you afford to pay to acquire a customer? What's your cost to acquire a customer limit, CAC limit? And if someone says, oh, we need to generate customers for less than $15, less than $20, something like that, I always sort of wince and go, it's going to be really hard for you to succeed on any advertising platform with those unit economics, because you have to acquire customers for so little. Maybe you can do that from the hyper responsives within your market, but as soon as you try and scale and advertise more broadly, you're going to run into big problems. So it's really important, if you are in that situation, to find ways to massively increase your customer lifetime value, how much a customer pays you over time. Can you get them to buy again? Can you get them a subscription model? Can you upsell them a much more valuable product or service? All sorts of ways that you can do that, but that's something to really focus on. Again, I've got other videos talking about that because is such an important thing, because the businesses that win with Google Ads aren't normally the ones that have the best Google ad campaigns. They're the ones that can pay the most to acquire customers. And how do you put yourself in that situation? You have something so good that people buy it again and again. They tell all their friends about it. They come back, they buy more, they sign up to a subscription, they buy larger, more expensive versions of it. And the best Google advertisers get that right, obsess over that more than specific keywords or shall I tweak this site link extension to be a different one? Things that aren't going to move the needle anywhere near as much as that. The next point is that the best Google advertisers think long-term, not short-term. And I know this is really hard to do. And I know because Google gives you virtually real-time data, it's so easy to just focus on the short term, but you can really mess yourself up and make things more difficult for you over the long run if you do that. So there are lots of things you can do within marketing broadly, but Google Ads more specifically, to try and get a short-term boost in leads and sales, and they will work. Things like heavy aggressive discounts, things like just adding in loads of scarcity and urgency to get people to act now. But then if those things are fake and people can see that after the fact, that's going to hurt your brand reputation in the long term. Heavy discounts might really affect your brand positioning if you're trying to position yourself as premium and luxury, and it's like, well, really? Okay, yeah, you generate a load of sales, but did you hurt yourself over the long run? You can train your market to just wait for the sale, expect the sale if you're constantly running these aggressive sales. I'm not saying to not do this, but just something to be aware of. You can create ads, text-based on the search network or image, video-based elsewhere on Google Ads that are very engaging, but kind of clickbaity. Like what you deliver on does not match the initial promise. It's not really relevant enough. Yes, you might generate a flood of leads, but find it hard to convert. Or you might sell a load of product, but do you get lifelong customers that are going to buy again and again from that? Probably not. You also have to factor in the customer experience into this. So you don't want to spend a fortune acquiring a lot of customers for a product or service that's kind of okay, and then lots of people buy it, they use it, but they didn't get the best experience. Like let's say you open a new restaurant. You want to make sure the food is good before you do a big launch. Because if you do a big launch and lots of locals come to your restaurant and the food's not very good, they won't come back again, they'll tell their friends, that might be the end of your restaurant. But if you've made sure the food's really good and they go there, fantastic, we'll be back. It's one of our regulars. We told our friends, our family, we're going to take my work colleagues there, or such and such, because this was brilliant. So factor in the customer experience into that long-term thinking. And that might mean that you as the business owner, the one running your Google Ads or a marketer in the company might go, you know what, the feedback from this thing's not great. I think we should be advertising something else until we've worked this out. Or just hold off, because the impact that repeat customers, referrals have on basically the leverage you get on your ad spend. If you think every time I spend money, I get this customer back for it, comparison to another business where every time I spend money, I get this customer back for it, who then refers me to 3 people. So I get 4 customers who then refer me to more. Like this business is going to have an exponentially better long-term outcome than this one because of that compounding effect. I've got 3 more techniques that the best Google advertisers use that I want to share with you in a second. But first, I want to let you know about Hyros. Hyros is fantastic tracking and attribution software and can really help you improve your Google ad results. It's a software that all the big players in the industry use, including myself. I use it to track results for my own ads across multiple platforms, including Google Ads, and all my organic results as well, which is super helpful. So if someone, for example, comes through and books a call for our Done For You services, I can see exactly where that person came from. This is particularly important if you're running ads across multiple channels or generating customers organically as well. Without accurate data, you are flying blind, and knowledge is power. So let me show you how important this is. So I'm here in my Hyros dashboard. I'm going to take a look at the data and the results that Hyros has been able to track and compare those to what I'm seeing within my Google Ad account for the same campaign. So this is a Google Ad campaign that we've been running. We're only looking at data for a few days here, but it really demonstrates what's going on. So you can see Hyros has registered 6 leads generated, a cost per lead of just over £15, 75 clicks. It's just a branded search campaign, hence why the CTR is 30%. So not a huge amount going on, but representative, right? So that's the data we can see within Hyros. If I jump over to my Google Ad account, we look at the exact same campaign, same time frame. We've got May 21st to 27th. You can see a lot of the data matches up, right? We've got 75 clicks, 30% CTR just like before. But if we scroll over, you can see that Google has only registered 3 conversions as opposed to the 6. So it's registered half the number of conversions. And I can tell you, looking at the back-end data, that the 6 from Hyros is the accurate number. And that's why this is so important, because we might look at the Google Ads data and come to the wrong conclusion, think this isn't profitable, turn stuff off when we shouldn't, but we can verify it with the high-res data and make much better, more informed decisions and end up with better overall ad results because of it. So if you want to improve the performance of your Google ad campaigns and be able to see exactly where your leads and sales are coming from, go ahead and sign up to HighROS. There is a link in the video description. Point number 6 is that Google Ads is more than just search. The best Google advertisers nearly always leverage more than just the search network on Google. They're putting ads in the other places that Google allows you to put ads on, which include a lot of diverse placements, allow you to reach people in a very different way often. You've got display, which is basically banner ads all over the internet. You've got YouTube, you've got Gmail, you've got Discover, you've got shopping, you've got all sorts of other options where you reach potential customers or help convert, warm customers, reactivate, all sorts of things you can do. And I think for a lot of Google advertisers, that's going outside their comfort zone. Maybe they sort of got involved in Google Ads in the first place because search and text-based ads felt comfortable. Producing creative was a little bit, we leave that to meta advertisers and other types of creatives. I'm not really sure about this. But if you want the best results out of Google Ads, you have to do that hard work, produce that creative or hire someone to produce that creative that allows you to advertise elsewhere. And the hard work is normally what leads to the best results because your competitors aren't willing to do it either. Absolutely fine to start with search as a beginner Google advertiser, but make sure that you move on and add in a lot of the other stuff that Google is able to provide from an ad product situation. It's almost certainly going to help your results. Even if your ad campaigns end up being predominantly search-based, you want to be able to remarket to people that haven't quite converted on the other placements in Google. And that can be a seriously low-hanging fruit, really easy way to boost your results is to incorporate something like that. Very difficult to remarket via the search network. Yes, you can do it, but you're not going to do it as well as effectively as if you also add in the other stuff. My next technique is to build barriers to entry. Okay, here's what I mean by that. So the most successful Google advertisers, they're able to leverage things that their competitors can't copy. Right? Now, this might be something that's not really marketing related. It might just be an advantage that you have. So it could be that your business has facilities that other competitors just don't have, and therefore you can really look to leverage that. It could be that you have economies of scale as a business that allows you to offer better pricing. Again, your competitors can't keep with that. It could be that you have better technology, like your product, service, whatever it is, has something more advanced, better for the user. That's going to make life really easy. That's the way to advertise on Google on easy mode and get lots of customers. Now, this is stuff you probably don't have control over as a Google advertiser. Maybe you do, it might be your business, but even if you do have control over it, it might be really difficult to actually implement. So there are also marketing related barriers to entry that if you don't have one of those non-marketing related barrier to entry, I would definitely look to build and think about this as a long-term project of going, how can I establish our business with a marketing barrier to entry that gives us competitive advantage? So I've done that with my business. My personal brand is our marketing related barrier to entry, okay, that gives us competitive advantage over our competitors in the marketplace when it comes to owning a marketing agency. So obviously you can do it with a personal brand, but you can do it with a brand more generally. It doesn't have to be a personal brand. And if you think about what a brand is, it's what people think of and feel when they think of your brand. You know, if you think of the largest brands in the world, you are going to have associations with those. So you have to really think about, what does your brand stand for? Is everything congruent to do with your brand? Is your packaging the same as your website, same as the messaging on your ads, same as the stuff that goes out on the social media? How do people feel? What associations do you have? Like, who endorses your products or services? What creators and influencers do you work with? If you don't work with any, definitely do. Easy way to get much better results. You can leverage their personal brands quickly and easily. What do they stand for? How does that make people feel? What do people associate with them? Think about all those experiences. And this sounds, to a lot of Google advertisers, particularly people who've been doing it as long as I have, this stuff might sound a little bit wishy-washy and, oh yeah, brand, whatever. Like, what does that even matter? I want to focus on like the hard data on clicks and reducing the cost and getting conversions. But brand is the thing that allows Nike to sell a t-shirt for 10 times what someone without the logo can sell it for. That's a really, really valuable business asset. Now, it's an extreme example, but there are many examples of smaller versions of that where you can create a brand within your space and look to benefit from that and play Google advertising on easy mode. And you start as the advertiser because that's the first interaction that people have with your business. How does your ads make them feel? How does then the landing pages make them feel? The whole thing has to be a thought through package, and you won't see the improvement in results from that early on, but compounded over time, it can make all the difference in the world. And technique number 8, which the best Google advertisers do, but you might not expect them to do, is to leverage other advertisers' ad spend and experience and model from what they have worked out. Like we do this as an agency. We've spent tens of millions across all sorts of industries. Like we're very experienced in Google Ads and know what we're doing. But when we start working with a client, we will absolutely use Google's Ad Transparency Center, free tool, where you can look at the competitors of that business and work out which ads are they running, where are they running ads, which ads perform best. And we will use that as a framework to start modeling. And by doing that, we might save a whole bunch of money, months, maybe even years of trial and error, and get significantly better results really fast. In fact, I go through the Google Ads Transparency Center and how you can take a look at your competitors' ads and model from them and save yourself time and money in this video here. If you haven't watched already, strongly recommend you go through it because a few hours spent doing this might save you, like I said, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, depending on your budget, and months, maybe even years of trial and error. So go ahead and check it out.